Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today Deshaun Watson still sucks. In fact, he is at an all-time level of sucking at the NFL quarterback position. So, the Browns have started off 1-4 to start this season, and they played an awful game against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders' defense is coming along better as the season has gone on, but this was not supposed to be a good defense at all to start this season. The Browns ended up losing that game. They're 1-4 to start the season. And the question that a lot of people were asking with the Cleveland Browns is like, hey, this Watson thing ain't looking good so far. And we're going to do a lot of those numbers here in a minute. But Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, was asked after the game, hey, do you guys think you might think about changing quarterbacks? Kevin Stefanski says, okay, let me find the quote. We're not changing quarterbacks, Stefanski said after Sunday, after the Browns' 34-13 loss. We need to play better. I need to coach better, was a quote from Kevin Stefanski. Guys, we'll get into the numbers here in a second. But this is, and again, Browns fans, fill me in the comments. You guys follow the team a lot more intimately than I do. This has to be a decision from ownership, right? This has to be a decision from ownership where they're like, hey, we gave up all this stuff for Deshaun Watson. We're paying him all of this money. This dude has to be the quarterback. He has to be the starting quarterback, because what we've seen out of Deshaun Watson for 2.5 years, maybe 2 years, 3 years as the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, he has not earned that position. He is not put in the merit to earn that position to be the Browns starting quarterback. He has just been awful since he became to Cleveland. The completion percentage numbers are absolutely terrible. I was actually looking at some of the numbers for him last year. He was actually a little bit better last year than I gave him credit, but I don't know if I'm just saying that because he's so bad this year that last year actually looks better. But this is an absolute train wreck. He is absolutely terrible. It doesn't look like the team wants to coach for him. It doesn't look like the players want to catch passes for him. It doesn't look like the offensive line wants to block for him. Right now, he's leading the NFL in sacks. He is averaging 170 yards per game. He has not thrown over 200 yards in a game this entire season. He is the only Browns quarterback to not do that since 1999 through first 5 games. That is absolutely an incredible stat out of all the bad quarterbacks that the Browns had. He's got 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's got a 21 QBR. He is the only quarterback this season to have single-digit QBR stats in a game. He has a 21 QBR overall. Gardner Minshew got benched, and he has a 41 QBR so far this season. That's like twice the amount of QBR that Deshaun Watson had. That shows you just how bad he has been. He's got the worst QBR in the NFL. Will Levis has a 27 QBR. Caleb Williams is third to last, 36.3 QBR. If you look at this team, if you look at Deshaun Watson, he is absolutely playing like the worst quarterback in the NFL. And again, it's not just he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. He's getting into a thing here where he is getting into all-time bad status with some of these numbers that he's putting up here. So yards per attempt, he's at 4.9 or something right now. It might be 4.8. Here are Browns quarterbacks that have had more yards per attempt than Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Kaiser, Case Keenum, Johnny Manziel, Brandon Weeden, and Cody Kessler. Okay, here's another stat. So bottom 10 EPA per dropback averages in weeks 1 through 5 in any season since at least 2000. You got Deshaun Watson here is ranked 753, and he is the 3 guys above him are AJ Feely, Ryan Leaf, Kyle Bowler. Then below him, you have Chris Sims, Will Levis this year, Cordell Stewart, Jamarcus Russell, David Carr, Blaine Gabbert. This dude is playing like total bust. He's playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in NFL history, and that's showing up on this. When you're watching it, those are just some numbers to kind of reaffirm that. So here's the thing with the Browns here. This is, again, I'm not going to say anything that anyone else hasn't already said. Worst trade in NFL history. Dumbest decision to make the trade and then pay him all of the money. The Browns are strapped into this contract for another 2 seasons, not including this season. After this season, 2 more seasons, they're still strapped into that contract, fully guaranteed. This is an absolute disaster. And here's the thing, too, because I was going through some of the numbers earlier today, and I was looking at their offensive line because you can maybe give Deshaun Watson the benefit of the doubt and be like, hey, right now they're 29th in pass blocking according to Pro Football Focus, 31 in run blocking. And you can do that. Hey, the offensive line isn't playing their part. Maybe the weapons could be better. Maybe Stefanski could coach better. Maybe everyone could be better for the Cleveland Browns. But if you look at last year, they weren't necessarily the greatest offensive line either by the numbers. They were 18th in pass blocking, 21st in run blocking. So they have gotten worse. But even then, with a below average offensive line, or maybe you could say average, Joe Flacco got resurrected from the dead and took them to the playoffs. So it's not that this team with these weapons and this offensive line and this coach can't be successful, can't get you to the playoffs. It's the quarterback. It is 100% the quarterback right now. A few more insult stats for the Browns here. Since the Browns got rid of Baker Mayfield has 49 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson has 19. Now you can maybe say it's a little bit unfair because Deshaun Watson didn't play in all of 2022 until the end of the season. Then he didn't play that much last year. So you can maybe say it's a little bit unfair, but 30 more touchdowns for Baker Mayfield since he left the Browns than Deshaun Watson. That is not good. Yeah, man, this is absolutely a terrible situation for the Cleveland Browns. And the scary thing for the Browns is it doesn't look like there's a way out. It doesn't look like there's a way out. And I think your way out, though, is just eating it. You just have to own up and be like, we screwed up. We screwed up with this. We're going to move on. And if we have to eat this horrible cap situation for the next few years, we're going to have to do it. Because just throwing Deshaun Watson out there and having him try to play and having him try to be productive just isn't going to work. Getting a new coach instead of Kevin Stefanski isn't going to work. And I think, too, we've been talking about football, but I just think all of the off-field things with Deshaun Watson, I'll say this as a fan, every time I see him, I think of that stuff. Every time I see him, I think of that stuff. And if you're a player in the locker room, knowing all of that stuff, knowing that all of that nasty things that he did, it is probably harder for you as an offensive lineman, just knowing how terrible of a person that he is alleged of being, kind of putting those in air quotes there, of alleged, to block as hard as you want for him, to run the routes as much as you want for him, to run the ball as much as you want for him, to maybe coach. Like he does lead the NFL in sacks. It's actually by like a pretty decent margin. Now, those numbers could be a little bit skewed because you had a lot of teams that had bye weeks in week 5, and the Browns obviously played a full 5 games. But this is a situation where the Browns just got to eat it and say, hey, we're moving on from this dude. Either you have to cut him. I think if you cut him, you're not going to regret it. And I think you already have all of your regrets now. So I would say don't keep this situation going anymore because it just makes you look worse and worse and worse and worse. And the Haslams, you guys are giving David Tepper down in Carolina a run for his money for worst NFL owners because this is absolutely pathetic for the Browns. A team that was god-awful most of my life, looked like they had a little bit of spark heading in the right direction with Baker Mayfield, and then they're right back down to the bottom again. So there you have it, guys. Browns fans, let me know what you think. What do you think of Deshaun Watson? What do you think they should do? How do you get out of this? Because right now, I don't see that many options, and it looks like this is going to be a depressing kind of stretch for you guys here, unfortunately. So there you have it. That's going to do it for this episode here today. If you liked what you saw here today, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. That is the best way to support this show, and it costs you absolutely nothing. We talk NFL, basketball, college football. We talk a little bit of everything here. I do this on the side, so if you guys can hit that subscribe button, really helps support the show. And feel free to check out the rest of the Sports Detective Podcast channel page. You might find some other videos that you like. So thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.